Minister Andrew Rosindell.
Thank you, Dr. Huck, and what a pleasure it is to once again serve under your chairmanship. And it's appropriate that you are chairing this important debate this afternoon as someone who has always stood up for humanitarian causes, self-determination, the rights of peoples around the world. So it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I would like to also thank the Honourable Lady, the member for Huddersfield, for bringing this very important debate to the floor of the House this afternoon on the very last day of term. She has been, I believe, a principled voice in Parliament on this issue for a very long time, and I commend her for that. I would also like to thank the Sudan and South Sudan All-Party Parliamentary Group, and not least its Secretariat, Glenn Promnitz, who's here today, for continuing to keep parliamentarians briefed and informed on the ongoing situation in the region, especially when so much of the world regrettably appears to have fallen silent. They have done an excellent job, and I commend them for all the work they have carried out. Now, I'd like to refer to some of the comments, not everybody, but some of the points that have been made this afternoon, because I just said that, regrettably, the world is silent. But this afternoon, this House has not been silent. I've heard some very passionate speeches and comments from all sides of the House. And what has struck me is, when you consider how much is going on in the world today and how many issues we do talk about, we've actually not been speaking about Sudan as much as we should have done. The nature of this conflict and the dreadful repercussions on the people of Sudan is absolutely horrendous, and we're right to debate it this afternoon. The Honourable Member for Gravesend spoke about the health risks that exist in that region. The Honourable Member for Newcastle-under-Lyme spoke about the importance of the diaspora in the United Kingdom, and I think that was also mentioned by a number of other colleagues this afternoon. The member for Slough talked about gender-based violence being used as a weapon of war, and he's right to do so. And the member for Strangford, as chairman of the APPG for freedom of religion and belief, spoke passionately about this issue and gave examples of where we need to highlight this issue. And the member for Aylesbury talked about the denial of humanitarian aid as a weapon, and I think that was also taken up by the member for Dewsbury and Batley, and I thank them both for highlighting that. It does seem that it's common practice now in conflicts that withholding humanitarian aid is used as a weapon in conflicts, and that really is quite dreadful and appalling. And I was particularly struck by the Honourable Lady, the member for Edmonton, who spoke about war crimes and crimes against humanity and how justice is needed in these cases. And she also gave tribute to the diaspora here in the UK. But she said that the Sudanese people are not forgotten and we must stand with them. And I agree with her on that. And I think she's summed up the mood of the House this afternoon. And apart from everyone else, I would like to thank the former minister, the member for Oxford East, because she did a fine job as minister in the time she was there, and she spoke with knowledge and experience about this topic this afternoon. And it's a shame the minister's not in her place, as the former minister is not back in her place, but we thank her for continuing to take an interest in this very important subject. And so today, as others have, I wish to express my deep and growing concern for the people of Sudan, a nation in the grip of one of the most harrowing and shamefully overlooked humanitarian crises of our time. The conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces has torn this ancient country apart. According to the United Nations, over 25 million people, over half of Sudan's population, are now in need of humanitarian assistance. The World Food Programme warns that 18 million people face acute food insecurity, with 5 million in serious danger and over 750,000 children suffering from severe malnutrition. Hospitals and aid convoys have come under attack, entire communities have been displaced, and reports continue to emerge of ethnic cleansing, gender-based violence and mass killings, particularly in Darfur. In April, the United Kingdom co-hosted an international humanitarian conference on Sudan, which has been mentioned by other colleagues this afternoon. And it announced that 120 million in humanitarian funding was going to be spent, supplementing the tens of millions provided by the last government. However, nearly 3 months later, we must ask, and I hope the Minister will respond to this, what has that money been used for? Where has the money gone? Has the funding reached frontline organisations and local civil society actors working to deliver urgent assistance? Is it getting over the border at the scale required? And is there deconfliction to ensure it is distributed to the innocent civilians that require that funding? As the pen holder on Sudan, the United Nations, the United Kingdom holds a unique and vital responsibility. But Dr. Huck, I must ask whether the UK is currently doing enough in the United Nations. Are we using our position at the Security Council to its fullest extent? What will the UK be doing through the United Nations Security Council in the time ahead to push for action on humanitarian corridors, for independent investigations into war crimes, and to hold the perpetrators to account? More broadly, will the Minister tell us what new measures is the government taking to compel the warring parties into a much-needed ceasefire? And how is the UK supporting Sudanese civilian and political forces to engage in constructive dialogue processes such as the Cairo conference? And what is her assessment about the current effectiveness of the process such as this and the Jeddah process? And on external factors influencing the war, what action does the Minister propose to take? The House would also welcome clarity about whether the government is exploring replicating the approach of our American allies when it comes to sanctions. The United States recently imposed further targeted sanctions. The previous government recognised that these measures send a clear message that those who commit appalling acts will be held accountable, which is why we implemented a number of sanctions on those supporting the activities of the Rapid Support Forces and Sudanese Armed Forces. And so I welcome the appointment of the UK Special Envoy for Sudan, but this cannot be the sum of our response. It cannot be a substitute for a full and proper strategy, which I hope the Minister will outline later on in her remarks. We, on this side of the House, call on His Majesty's Government to, firstly, provide a full and transparent update on the disbursement and impact of the £120 million pledged in April. Secondly, to clarify how the UK is supporting frontline humanitarian agencies, set out its diplomatic engagement with regional actors, and thirdly, push for stronger coordinated action at the UN and with our allies, including support for a ceasefire and accountability for atrocities committed. And finally, to clearly set out its position on where it could do more on the possibility of sanctions. And so finally, Dr. Huck, while this debate in Westminster Hall is crucial for raising awareness and pressing for much needed action, the gravity of the situation in Sudan demands the highest level of government focus. And so I therefore urge the Foreign Secretary to the House to come to the House, probably not till September now, but at the earliest opportunity, and make a comprehensive comprehensive statement outlining the government's full and proper plan of action to address this ongoing catastrophe. We need to see a clear, unified strategy that matches the scale and urgency of this crisis. Dr. Huck, Britain has long played a role in Sudan, with deep historical ties that stretch back centuries. From the days of General Gordon in Khartoum and our administration of Sudan during the Anglo-Egyptian condominium, Britain has been intrinsically involved in the shaping of Sudan's modern identity. A successful Sudan, then, is not distant from our national story. It is in part a reflection of ourselves. None of this happened in a vacuum. Our knowledge of the region, our long-standing diplomatic channels, and our moral voice on the world stage place the United Kingdom in a position to lead. We must honour that tradition in Sudan. The world may not be watching, but Britain must not look away.